Welcome to Wake and Bake from San Diego,
where sports betting
meets marijuana. I'm Leaf.
And I'm Low.
And here's Chaz.
Thanks, guys. You know, Leaf and Low are going to become a bigger part of the show as we grow. And Wake and Bake is where sports betting meets marijuana. But come on, these guys have been hanging around together for years. If you've ever been out the back door of a sports book, you know exactly what I mean. These guys are not. This is more of a reunite than a meet. But if you're a handicapper and you've hung around at the back door of a sports book, what we're looking for is guys that know their cannabis and know their sports betting. And we love talking about marijuana. Don't get me wrong. 420 is our favorite time of day. However, you got to win. Sports betting is the key because that's how you buy the marijuana with the winnings from the sports book. So if you think you can make it, give us a shout out. Hit us up and we'll get you on the show and see what you can do. Let's do this. Let's go see what Saturdays in Canada looks like.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
CFL, let them know.
And just like I promised, right, here's Blackhawk West, Saturdays in Canada here on Wake and Bake. Now, Wes, the funny part about having a league, right, that you can do the Easy Sports data in like 12 minutes, right? You gotta enter 4 games. Some weeks it's 3, but 4 games. The first quarter, the first half, the second half in the game. You got to enter the lines. You got to enter the results, and you got to take that, pop it into the data, and then to do the dashboard, to do an NCAA football dashboard takes forever. It takes like an hour to do. CFL, literally the whole process took 12 minutes, but we're in a slippery slope, right, with the CFL.
Yeah, we are. Well, and you know, your data, what's great about it in the CFL is you got 9 teams, right? So you're plugging in 8 teams. Somebody's got to buy every week. So you're plugging in 8 teams worth of data and, you know, you just let the algorithm go. But we have the same matchup in week 20 and week 21. And a lot of these playoff positions are locked in place. So we're fighting for the last couple of them. And, you know, so we have Hamilton is playing against Ottawa. Ottawa's playing for nothing. Hamilton needs a win with a Sask loss to lock themselves into 3rd place. Sask needs a win with a Hamilton loss. And actually, I think Sask, they can't tie. Sask actually has to have the better points total. So Sask needs a win twice, and they need Hamilton to lose once. Although Sask is playing against Calgary, and that's not an easy win for anybody this season. They're a 10-6 team. You know, Toronto and Montreal, they're fighting for who's locked into first. And that's a weird one because I don't think the home field advantage matters to Toronto as much as it matters to Montreal. Montreal is not a great home field, but Toronto has such a good home field advantage. If you are the Montreal Als, you're not giving it to them. And so the games this week and next week are it's almost like we need to see what happens with Ottawa and Hamilton to know how we play Sask against Calgary, because if Sask is out, it's just, and that's what makes it the CFL. We're looking at crossovers. We got a great 6 weeks ahead of us in the CFL.
Well, if you look back 5 weeks ago when we were talking, it was a slam dunk, right? That the East wasn't going to have 3. And all of a sudden, Hamilton's doing some winning. The other teams aren't winning. And so it really is coming down to it. But, you know, that's no different than if you think about any series. Look at the baseball that's on right now. You can't really think about Saturday till you get through Friday, and it's the same thing when you're playing teams. And, you know, there's the only other time this happens in football is if, you know, Alabama plays Auburn at the end of the year, and they're both in the other sides of the division, so they meet in the SEC championship, that kind of thing. So you'll see it in the NFL, right? 2 teams from the same division play their last game of the season, and then they end up being matched up in the wild card round, that kind of thing. But
this is the CFL at its finest. You know, these teams know each other. You know, and I'm speaking to all of the matchups, you know, for the most part. But They know each other, and you brought up Hamilton. They started winning games late in the season, or at least relative to where they need to be in order to make a playoff spot. Saskatchewan is on the other side of things. Their defense has been atrocious. Cody Fajardo has been disappointing. I mean,
5 in a row they lost.
They've lost 5 in a row, and that is not.
They were 6-5 and looking like a lock.
And you're talking the highest paid quarterback in the CFL. Former most outstanding player. I mean, as a fan, I would love to see Sask get in on the crossover, because those are going to be some great matchups. Sask going against Toronto, going against Montreal, and then the possibility of a Grey Cup. You remember last year, Saskatchewan almost beat Winnipeg in the conference finals to go to the Cup. So if we somehow get a Saskatchewan-Winnipeg matchup in the Grey Cup, I think that would be pretty incredible. You got the two marquee quarterbacks. Winnipeg going for a three-peat.
Yeah, football isn't a series like baseball. Football is a game. You got to win the game. You don't show up on that day for whatever reason. You make a couple uncharacteristic mistakes, and to define what an uncharacteristic mistake is, that's a mistake a team that you have bet on does something they haven't done, and that's why you bet on them. So exactly. I bet on them because they don't throw interceptions, and in the first half, the guy throws 3 picks. Those are uncharacteristic mistakes.
Yep.
All right, so let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back from break, we're going to look at Saturday in Canada. I guess that's how we came up with the name. You're listening to Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawk West on Wake and Bake.
You can get championship footballs at championshipfootballs.com. They offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. It's the coolest present that they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan or an Alabama Crimson Tide backer, maybe Gramps is a lifelong Dallas Cowboys supporter, or your brother-in-law is in LSU Tiger territory. Know a member of the Baylor Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Kansas City Chiefs fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, we're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggie or a Tulane Green Wave alum, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't Nice Effort, You Had a Pretty Good Season Footballs.com. The name is ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Welcome back to Saturdays in Canada with Blackhawk West. Blackhawk, there's only a couple games. We got 13 seconds to kill. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play it again because I love it.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
CFL, let them know.
And after spending Canada Thanksgiving on a Monday, it's hard not to love this sport. It really is. It's exciting football. We're talking about when we get to the playoffs, it's good football. It really is.
It is good football, and it's cold up there. I mean, there is no warm weather cities north of the border. They just don't exist.
So let's do this. You're gonna talk about a couple games, but while you're doing that, let me just zap into our friends down at Google. I'm gonna ask them what it is in Montreal. And right now it's 43 degrees and rainy. The high is gonna be 67 on Saturday, low 45. So that's pretty good football weather.
Yep, that's pretty good football weather. And I by the time we reach the playoffs, it's gonna drop about 10 degrees. I think in the CFL. The best weather, obviously the best weather is in BC because there's a dome. There's a dome in Vancouver that they play in. But I'm guessing Toronto is probably the closest to, because that's close to New York. But like Regina, Saskatchewan, that's going to be cold. And
we talk about this with all our sports, but this time of year, it really is crucial. You got to take the time to just click. All you got to do is click. I remember a game where I didn't click. and I didn't know they were getting 7 inches of rain that day, and I had the over, and it was 7-3 at halftime, and the field was, you couldn't see the numbers or anything. So yeah, you always got to click. Toronto 41 degrees, a little colder, but all right. So let's talk about that first game. It's 1 o'clock our time, so it's 4 o'clock Eastern. Toronto at Montreal, and again, these are teams that technically, if Montreal wins both these games, they're going to have the same exact record.
That's it, and that's what it's gonna take, and then it'll go down to head to head. It'll first go points, then it'll go head to head. I don't see Montreal beating them twice. When you look at this, most recently, Stanback is back in the lineup for Montreal. Montreal's got a little bit of mojo back. They're able to run the ball and kill the clock. So that's why I think we're looking at 1.5 points. I think that if Stanback is worth 2 to 4 points, guaranteed. If it wasn't Toronto they were playing, he'd probably be worth more. But either way, Oakman is back in the lineup. Big 7-foot guy. They made a movie about him, for Toronto. He's a difference maker on defense. Toronto wants to put this thing away and get rested. So 1.5 is kind of a gift for Toronto. Toronto is the superior team. They're looking at the possibility of having to play them again. Toronto's been in this spot before. So lay the 1.5, take Toronto. It's basically a pick 'em at that point. It's a better roster. It's a better quarterback. McLeod Bethel-Thompson is silently having one of the best quarterback seasons in the CFL. He's been healthy all year. They've been consistent. So lay the 1.5. Let Toronto get going.
Well, and really, do you want to give someone a second shot? You don't. You need to close out when you can close out.
And Montreal's roster is just they've been kind of all over the place, with some of the injuries that they've had. Now they're getting Stanback back, which is a good thing, but their defense and I could talk forever about it. Montreal or Toronto's the play.
All right, so the next game, Calgary at Sask. So there's other dynamics from the earlier games. There's 2 games on Friday that are going to impact this game because currently Sask is 6-10, but they were 6-5. So they were 6-5, and when you go from 6-5 West to 6-6, okay, no worries, right? We'll get them next week, and then you're 6-7, then you're 6-8. Bada boom, bada bing, you're 6-10. That's got to be depressing.
Yeah, that does. So, really with this game, what we're looking at is the game means more to Sask than it does to Calgary. Although Calgary, there's 2 points that separate Calgary from BC. And BC is playing Edmonton this week. And then next week, they got to go to Winnipeg, which that's kind of winnable because Winnipeg will probably not be starting their starters. So BC has one guaranteed dub. But there's the potential that BC wins these next 2 games. I bring that up because Calgary, you would think Calgary would rather play at home, although they're better on the road. But I say that only because this game does have meaning for Calgary. And so we're looking at 3 points. I would lay the 3 points and take Calgary at Sask. I know it's at Regina. Calgary is 6-2 on the road. They're a much better road team. And Sask, they just can't figure it out defensively. I think that by the time this game kicks off, we're going to be looking at Calgary just simply winning the game, and then they're going to rest their receivers. They've been beat up on receiver most of the season. They got to get them rested because when they get into the playoffs, BC is going to be a totally different monster, especially if they get Nathan Rourke back.
Well, you mentioned the 6-2 on the road, but of course the Easy Sports data takes into account that evil Satanist item called the point spread. And so we've got 2 years of data on their away games. They've lost against the spread twice, Wes. They're 5 straight, then they lost, and then they won 6 straight, then they lost, and then 2. So they are 11, 13-2 against the spread since we've been starting our Easy Sports data when they are on the road. And again, it's 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry about Quinn. Quinn's been part of the show since he was a little. You know what? Honestly, whether it's the Dobbins or Dobbins, is that his name? Or Quinn, it don't matter. They're all welcome members of the family.
They're baby Blackhawks.
Right, and so here's where we're at now. We're going to be dealing with playoffs here in a couple of weeks. We're going to have some fun with this, but the bottom line is we've got to cash tickets. This week, you know what? You got to tread lightly because, like you said, you got to pay attention to Friday before you dive in on Saturday. And next week, we could have games that are easy, like you mentioned, or hard, but the week after that, we're talking real football.
Hold on one second.
Welcome to Soccer Time with Hector here on Wake and Bake. Hector, we talked all summer about getting to this part of the USL Championship season. It is the playoffs. Nothing's really shocked us because the seedings in the East were tight, but in the West it was kind of spread out. And now we know that Louisville's sitting and San Antonio's sitting, and they're waiting to see who they play. And there's 6 other teams from both conferences that are going to play this weekend.
Yeah, we got some interesting matchups right now. I mean, start of the season, I had Detroit City and San Diego Loyal in the final, and I'm going to stick to that. Detroit City is going to be playing their first playoff game as member of the USL Championship after jumping over from Nisa, and that's one of the teams that I'm looking at. It's my first bet, actually. Detroit City traveling to Memphis, and Memphis is the number 2 seed. Detroit City got in as a 7 seed. So they're playing with house money right now, man. I mean, I like them. I've always followed them since they were like in 3rd Division Nisa, and they dominated over there. Like I said, this is the rookie season in the USL Championship. They already made the playoffs. They got a lot of support, even though they're going to be playing on the road. And like I said, there's no pressure on them this time. They did what they were supposed to, make the playoffs in their first season. Not a lot of teams can say that. But I'm still liking their Cinderella story. I like their goalkeeper, Nate Steinwasser, and also a lot of their defenders, Carroll and those guys, and their offense is a pretty timely offense, too. They can take advantage of the counterattack with Beto Faz. And I'm liking them, dude. I'm liking for the upset at Memphis 901. And it's going to be a close one, but I think they're going to pull it off 2-1.
All right, so they are the 7 seed, Detroit. Memphis is the 2. So that's how it works. 2-7, right? 3-6, 4-5.
Yeah.
And then if they reseed, right? Whoever's the highest seed?
Yeah, the 1 seeds come into the second round, and they take whoever the lowest seed is.
Yep. All right, so what do we know about Memphis? Memphis was 21-8-5, and Detroit City was 14-8-12. So there's a big difference in their records, but you don't think it's going to matter?
No, I think all the pressure's on Memphis to show up. They're a good team. Obviously, they finished number 2 for a reason. And but I like Detroit. Maybe it's an emotional thing because I followed them for so long. But I'm still liking them to ride the wave of house money, I guess. And they're gonna put it off. I'm feeling really good about my prediction about having San Diego Loyal and Detroit City in the final, and they're gonna pull off they're my dark horse for the Eastern Conference, Detroit City.
Well, yeah, they have to be. They're the lowest seed. That's got to make them 20-1 or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, don't bet against Detroit City, man, in any sport, especially in soccer.
There you go. All right, so let's do this. Did you give us a score on that game?
I like him 2-1 on this one.
You know, it's so funny because, again, we don't have a lot of handicappers to give out the scores, but you've consistently done that from day one, and we've known each other for years now. The bottom line is I love it because it gives me an idea of what kind of game you're seeing, and in live action, and there's not a lot of books that carry USL, so you got to look around for them, and then to get live action is a little easier. It's ironic that it's easier to find USL in live action than it is before the game starts, but that's just the nature of the smaller conferences. When we get back from break, we're going to get a couple more playoff picks from USL Championship Soccer with Hector here on Soccer Time with Hector on Wake and Bake. It's football season, ladies and gentlemen, and PropSwap is the best way to lock in the action right now. This time last year, Cincinnati was 300-1 odds. Thousands of prop swappers cashed in on Cincy, just by buying their tickets on Prop Swap early and then flipping for a profit when Burrow and company got hot. Now is your chance to do it again. With thousands of buyers across the country, you'll always get the most amount of money for your bet on Prop Swap. So hurry to Prop Swap while it's early and grab a ticket or two. The odds are always the highest right now. It really does pay to get in early. Go to PropSwap.com or download the free PropSwap app today. PropSwap is where America buys and sells sports bets. If you listen to Muhammad for 151 Sports Investing, he told you how much better the odds are on PropSwap than what is being offered at your local sports book. And look at me. I had UConn. I went for two. So instead of getting just one ticket with UConn in the future for the Final Four, I got two, sold one on PropSwap, and when they lost, I ended up having a positive ROI on a national championship future ticket where the team lost. Only on PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Welcome back to Soccer Time with Hector here on Wake and Bacon. We are in playoffs. Now, you know what? It's funny because baseball's in playoffs, but we're not talking any baseball this week on our show. We are talking playoffs in soccer. We are talking playoffs in Canadian football, but the soccer is a whole different animal because all we're looking for during this soccer is this.
Yeah.
And this
Exactly.
is where I'm gonna play the goal guy because I love that goal guy. It was goal, goal, goal. And you know what? There really isn't, Hector. There's nothing more exciting. And in a sport where the over-unders are 2.5, a goal is a big deal, and places go crazy when their team scores.
Yeah, you take the lead in the playoffs. It's almost like Major League Baseball right now. A run is like magnified big time. And
No, that's an excellent analogy. You're absolutely right. No doubt about it.
a goal in soccer is the same thing right now.
All right, so you went out on a stretch on the first pick, which is a big-time long shot. Let's hear what else you got for USL this weekend.
I got San Diego Loyal against the Oakland Roots at San Diego Torero Stadium. Oakland's had their number this season. They tied one and they beat them again in the second one. And they've always, I said this last week, they've always been a team that matches up well with San Diego Loyal. They got a great counterattack and their defense is pretty sturdy and they got a good goalkeeper too. But I'm liking San Diego Loyal to bounce back from last season being knocked out in the first round by San Antonio. The eventual, they made it all the way. They made a good run. And I think San Diego Loyal is going to be they're gonna, like I said, I got them for the final against Detroit City, so I can't back away from them now with Landon Donovan as it's still their head coach. So it's going to be a close one. I think this one goes extra time, actually. I think it's going to be low scoring as well, but I think they pulled off 1-0 in extra time at Torero Stadium.
So let's talk about that because in the regular season, soccer games end differently than they do when the loser goes home.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much if you're tied at regulation, you have 30 minutes after that. And if you're still tied after the 30 minutes of overtime or added time, it's penalty kicks. Nobody wants to see penalty kicks, dude. That's pretty much like a coin flip at that point. And but I think San Diego Loyal is going to have a good game plan for Oakland. Like I said, it's a good matchup for both teams, and they match up well against each other. But I think the home crowd's going to push them forward to get that 1-0 win and their first playoff victory in franchise history.
Now, the Memphis game, the Detroit and Memphis game, that's Saturday, but this game is Sunday.
Sunday, that's the last. That closes out the playoffs for that weekend. Yeah,
and you will be there, right?
I'll be there live, rooting on. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right, one more play.
My last one is Sacramento Republic at home against New Mexico United. Sacramento's a team we've talked about before. They made it all the way to the US Open Cup final against Orlando City, and they almost pulled off the Cinderella run. Everybody was rooting for them, but they couldn't pull it off against the Major League Soccer team, even though they knocked off a couple of Major League Soccer teams to get to the final. And they're going to be playing at home at Sacramento. New Mexico United's a good team also. They kind of remind me a little bit of Oakland without the defense. But, yeah, it's one of those things that I think being at home, having home field advantage right now is going to be huge for a lot of teams, and Sacramento's one of them. They feed off that crowd pretty well. They always have sold-out stadiums, and it'll be no different for their playoff game. So I like this one. It'll be high scoring, I think. Both teams going up and down like fast break, old school Lakers kind of basketball. And I think Sacramento's going to pull it off 3-2.
Yeah, when you look at the rankings in the West, Sacramento is the 4th seed, but they actually have the second best goal differential. Nobody is close to San Antonio, who scored 28 more goals than their opponents. But Sacramento's actually second with 14.
Yeah, when they play well, there's nobody they can compete with anybody, including San Antonio. And like I said, being at home, they're a playoff game, and they still got that memory of that U.S. Open Cup run. They made it all the way to the final, like I said. I think they pull it off, and I think they win a close one, but a high-scoring one, 3-2.
Yeah, so you got a couple long shots. You're going to ride them all the way to the end, and we're going to see what happens here on Soccer Time with Hector. We'll talk to you next time.
Take it easy.
Welcome to another edition of Sports Betting Weekly here on Wake and Bacon. We've got Chase Gilmore, but I'd like to call him Chase from Nashville, right?
Yeah, just moved here.
Yeah, there you go. A brand new Nashville resident. Are you going to be checking out any Titan games?
Yeah, I think I might go to the Jags-Titans divisional game, I think in December.
So let's do this. Let's check out. I just put on your banner. Chase spent the offseason celebrating his fantasy championship, his 151 and 121 against the spread title, and his Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl victory. So you won your fantasy league, your straight-up league, and your team won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, well, against the spread. So every game against the spread, we had to pick every game every week. And
right.
Yeah, so
that's not a bad year. That's not a bad summer. If you got to do anything all summer, that's not a bad way to spend the summer.
And I'm currently in first now, so I'm trying not to give up the title. So
yeah, and it's not easy picking every game, especially when you got life. Because I remember we did it about 4 or 5 years. We did that same contest, and so many guys just never got their Thursday bets in. And it really is a big deal when you get to Monday and you're looking at tiebreakers and you're tied with a guy, but you didn't put in Thursday.
Yeah, you gotta. I usually will put it in like with everything, and then I'll adjust later. So
yep.
Sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't. Like I forgot to change last week's Monday night game from Dallas to the Eagles, so. Sometimes it doesn't work if you don't.
Well, for a while there, it looked like that was going to be a good mistake,
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been good. And the funny thing is, picking every game versus selecting 5 or 6 tends to work out better for whatever reason. Like when you pick 5 or 6, it always seems to be like you pick the wrong ones, but. That's just how it is sometimes.
Oh, all those contests really come with a curveball involved. You're absolutely right. Your best bet, you can go 4-1. Of course, it's your best bet that loses, right?
Yeah, all the time.
All right, so let's look at where we're at. We're like with most of our guests, Chase, because this is the first time we've talked numerous times, but this is the first time we stuck a camera in front of your face.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is where we're at. 6 games in, the bye weeks are starting. What are you thinking? Who are you seeing right now because every year, we do our AFC, NFC weekend, our AFC, NFC Betaway weekend. We go to Vegas for those 2 games. Who's going to be those 4 teams this year? As of right now, who do you think?
The Bills, obviously. I think it might be a rematch, of last year. Bills Chiefs. I think they both look really good. Obviously the Bills, they just look unstoppable on both sides of the ball. I really thought the AFC West was just going to be a juggernaut, but they really haven't been. But the Chiefs do look good coming out of there. So I would probably say that. And the NFC, it's tough because you have a lot of teams you never thought would be with the records that they have, like the Eagles, the Giants.
Do you know the teams that are on buys? The 4 teams that are on buys this week have like a 16-3 a record up straight up. All right, so let's do this. Let's look at the first game. We're going to talk early Sunday morning. It's not as early in Nashville as it is here in San Diego. We got Green Bay at Washington.
Yeah, I will say the start times are a lot better out here, starting at noon. But watching the late games, especially a couple of the last stinkers on Thursday and other primetime games, it's tough to stay up.
Oh, no doubt. It gets sleepy when it's 12:30 at night.
Yeah. So what I like to do when I'm picking games is I like to look at the bet percentage versus the money percentage. That's usually a pretty big indicator of the public versus the sharps. I usually like to fade the public. It usually pays off. Of course, they'll win here and there, but this is a classic kind of fade the public. So everyone thinks Green Bay should beat Washington. They haven't looked that great, to be honest. They just lost last week to the Jets. They lost the week prior in London. They haven't looked that good. And when I look at the bet percentage, it's actually pretty even. Actually, Washington's a little bit higher, but the interesting thing to note is the money percentage is at 83%. So that means pretty even on the tickets, but a lot of big money and big bettors are on Washington. So I typically like to follow the big money bettors. They typically know a little bit more information than we can gather. And also too, through the app that I look at, it watches sharp action, which anything over 5 moves is usually interesting. Anything over 10 is very interesting. It's at 8 sharp moves. So to me, looking at this spread 4.5, Green Bay hasn't looked that good. Washington's been pretty underwhelming. I would probably pick Washington here with the points just because there is a large differential, the 31% differential of bets to money percentage. So that's a signal that I would look at. And yeah, just Green Bay has not looked that good.
Well, and Aaron Rodgers told us. He had a press conference where he told us we're not that good, and the public keeps betting them, and they keep losing. They're not even losing, Chase. They're losing the game on the field.
Yeah, let alone their big spreads. They're not even winning.
Yeah, they're almost double digits in London, right?
Are surprised this season, but yeah, it's trust me. I've been like, the Packers, they've always rebounded after losses and come back strong, won by double digits. I thought last week they were going to do the same thing. Nope. So I'm on the fade.
Yeah, sometimes you got to move on from a team. When we come back from break, we'll cover a couple more games. We got Chase here, who actually knows his stuff. If you've seen his scrolling notes, you're listening to sport. You're not actually listening to. You're watching Sports Betting Weekly here on Wake and Bake.
Sports Betting Weekly.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly here on Wake and Bake. In this episode of Sports Betting Weekly, we have Chase from Nashville. He's a new Tennessee resident, actually. Let's look at a couple more games for Sunday.
Yeah. So another one that kind of sticks out, fading the public, which I love to do. The public is heavy on the Jets. I mean, rightfully so. They've been a huge surprise this season. But 81% of the bet is on the Jets. That's anything over 70, 75%. Those are usually the games where you get killed. Like you follow the public and you get killed. And the line seems very interesting to me. The Broncos are favored. I mean, they haven't looked good at all. They were part of one of the worst Thursday night football games I've ever seen. If anyone bet no touchdown in that game, that was a good call.
Yeah, what were the odds on that? Do you remember?
Plus 10,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean.
1,000 to 1, guys.
Yeah, so that sticks out to me, and there's a lot of sharp action with the Broncos. I think this is a sell high situation and a buy low in the Broncos. I know Wilson is dealing with his shoulder injury, which I believe he's going to play. But yeah, this line just seems very odd. You would think the Jets, after, they're 4-2, they just beat the Packers, who we just talked about aren't as good as we thought, but still, that you would think the Jets would be favored here. And they're not. So fading the public with a fishy line, basically a pick 'em. Broncos haven't inspired me at all, but this is one of those lines where it doesn't feel good to bet, but it looks like the right side just based on the signals that I usually go off of.
That really is, and we talk about it all the time on this show. On Sunday, the lines look screwy, but by Monday you'll know exactly why that line was what it was.
Exactly. And honestly, there's a lot of psychology with how they set the lines. Typically you would get 3 points with home field advantage. So if they're on the road, they might be +2. But it just, to me, this line seems very odd. It's also showing it opened at +7.5 for the Jets, which, that would indicate that, people are betting the Jets, but clearly the money, is on Denver. The sharps are on Denver. The line just seems very interesting to me. So I would probably pick Denver there. It doesn't feel great, but yeah, I guess we'll see how that one plays.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know what, when you're making a play, you're making a play knowing that that's why you're it really has nothing to do with the football teams at this point. It has strictly to do with the gambling aspect. All right, give us one more game.
Yeah, so the other one, I think it was the Jags. The Jags and the Giants. So this is kind of the same trend. The public is heavy on the Giants. They've exceeded expectations. 63% of the bet is on the Giants, but only 47% of the money. The Jags have 53% of the money, so a 16% differential. That to me is, everyone loves the Giants. And they're an underdog. So you're like, well, they're 5-1 and they're getting 3 points automatic. That's what the public's thinking. But if you look, it's actually moved again. It started out as +1.5 and now they're at +3. So even though the public is hammering them, they're moving the line towards the Jags because the smart big money bettors are betting the Jags. So that's a very interesting reverse line movement where more people are betting the Giants, yet it's moving the other way. So I have been duped by the Jaguars throughout this season. I can't seem to get on the right side of the games. When I'm for them, they don't show up. And, early in the season, they were playing a lot better. This to me, looking at the psychology of the line is very interesting of how it's moving towards the Jags, yet the public is on the Giants. So I think it's another situation, fade the public and take a line that the Jags haven't looked great. They really haven't. But, based off these signals, I always love to fade the public and it usually works out. So I would probably go with the.
Did you freeze up on me?
No.
Okay. When you're, and that's the beauty of pre-recorded stuff. I could get to sit around and edit this and clean it all up.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the world of sports betting is you're betting on what's happened in the past, and that's one of the reasons we're the biggest proponents of live action in the history of proponents, because it's the only thing that that you're equal with the book. Because coming up to this, the book knows a lot more than you do. They have a reason for setting the line the way they set it, and like you said, fading the public, you really never can go wrong with that, can you?
And never can. And honestly, I do like live betting. I make a lot more money live betting. It's always fun to bet pregame. But man, if you like a side and they go down, a quick score and you get them out a better line, or like with the Padres, I've been hammering them live every time they're down and they come back and win.
No, when you get a team's bullpen is playing like that, because we've been hopping on them, not only getting them to win, but the other team total under, and it's worked out real well. All right, Chase, keep your head down, keep the golf game going. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, you'll invite me back.
There you go. Winners win. That's what they do.
If I go over 3, maybe I come back on, and I'm just a fade spot.
Yeah. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, bye.
I want some more. I want some more. I want some more.
Welcome to More Winners with Mo. And that's exactly what we got from him last week. But Mo, I tell you, every single season, somebody brings up that run you went on where you literally did not give out a loser for an entire month.
Yeah, it's crazy with that. That was a couple of years ago. And I was looking back here a second ago. We were picking anywhere from 8 to 10 games a week. So it was a pretty historic run, and a run that was definitely nice to have sports betting legal where I'm at to cash in on that luck I had.
Yeah, no, it really is. I'm sitting in California, and it's brutal. It's brutal. I'll give you an example. The other night, I couldn't get a play in because in Costa Rica, the MoneyGram guy had stopped. So, I'm in San Diego. In Costa Rica, it's a different time zone. So I couldn't get the bet in. And, of course, the team was like 35-3 or something. And, when you could just run over to the book or go online and it's legal and get your money, of course, when it's legal, get your monies, which is the only reason why we do this, is always really, really easy. It's brutal.
Yeah, it is for sure. And the nice thing about it, what's weird is being in Indiana, we're behind on everything. Medical marijuana is a thing in almost every state but Indiana. So we're always so far behind on everything. But sports betting, we were one of the first few states to do online sports betting, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but you know what? They're ahead of the curve. Good for them. That's what you got to do. So, all right. So let's talk about, before we go into some plays for this week, let's talk about where we are. We're at a bye week. So the bye week, the week for this team's bye week is, oh my God, it's like 6-0, 4-1, 5-1. It's like if it was ever a week to be a bye week, this is it. Because bye weeks when you're winning, Mo, are a lot better. But give me a couple teams that really need a bye week.
Well, I think the Cleveland Browns are a team that need a bye week. We'll talk about them here in just a little bit. They've been waiting on Deshaun Watson, who seems like he's in a little bit more trouble. The offense hasn't been clicking much. The defense has been terrible. I think they're in desperate need of a bye week. Also, another team we're going to talk about, I think the San Francisco 49ers. They had a rough week last week. I think they definitely need to get some people healthy. Every year, it seems like they deal with a ton of catastrophic injuries, and that's happening to them again this year. So I think they're definitely a team that could use a week of rest to try to get some more of these guys healthy.
Yeah, I mean, really, every single week, the injury list for some of these teams is 20, 24 guys. I mean, you're taking guys that weren't on the practice squad that you had to put on the practice squad because the guy on the practice squad got hurt, and now that guy's playing in a football game.
Well, the concussion, I think, to Tua Tagovailoa that was so blatantly evident, and then when he couldn't get up the other night when he shouldn't have been playing, I think you see a lot more guys this week. I think the concussion protocol was the biggest it had ever been in any time since they've instituted that in the NFL. So they're definitely being a lot harder on that than they were earlier.
Then you have to. I mean, you're talking about the rest of your life. What good is getting $250 million if you don't remember who you are?
Right, exactly.
All right, let's talk some games.
All right, I think we're going to look at an important matchup in the AFC South this week. The Colts, who took on division leader Tennessee just 2 weeks ago. Tennessee coming off a bye week. The Colts get a last-second win against Jacksonville. Not super impressive, but a win nonetheless. And it's sad that when you're to a point with your own team that you're hoping that they lose so you can get a quarterback of the future in the draft. But that's where we are. This week, for me this year, I bet on the Colts week 1 and 2. I won't do that again probably for a while until I see some consistency. So this week for the Colts Titans, for me, it's all about single game parlays, and we're going anytime touchdown scores. We're going Derrick Henry anytime touchdown score. We are going Alec Pierce, the rookie receiver from the Colts, anytime touchdown score. Matt Ryan and Alec Pierce over the last 3 weeks seem to have really been really in sync. Alec Pierce with 14 receptions 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take Matt Ryan to throw plus 249 yards. So he's been consistently throwing for 300 plus yards every week. While he hasn't had a ton of success and turned the ball over more than anybody in the NFL, he's still throwing for a bunch of yards. So I'm going to single game parlay those 3 plays together in that game.
Now, what are we going to get for odds on that?
You probably get anywhere with the parlay single game parlay boost from probably 680 to 880, which is not bad on what seems to be a pretty good play.
No, that could happen early in the third quarter. If everything goes well. I mean, if you have a 330-yard passing day, which is not unheard of. I mean, the dude's got an arm. He always had an arm.
Yeah, and this kid from Cincinnati, this young receiver, the Colts drafted from the Bearcats, is quick too. The fastest guy on the team. So he's getting downfield and getting big catches. So that's been eating up a bunch of yards for Matt Ryan. So. And 249 yards for a NFL quarterback is not a ton. You know what I mean? It's not a lot. So hopefully that's going to be a play that will make me some money this week.
Yeah, no. If you only have 250, you're not winning. Unless you're running for 150 or 200, you're not winning the ball.
No, and he's thrown for 300 plus yards in almost every loss this year too. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one right there. It's just I don't like betting the Colts because you don't have an idea which team's going to show up. So when it comes to betting on them this year, if I do, it's usually same game parlays with other options.
And that's the beauty of those. When you've got a couple teams involved, and we've talked about this for years in terms of betting when I do the first player to score, it allows you to root for everybody. The bottom line is if your team is good, you're not playing, Mo. You're not stopping Derrick Henry from scoring that touchdown. If your team can't stop him, you're not going to stop him, so you might as well cash a ticket.
You're right, and that's the thing. My team's not good this year, and so I might as well make some money off them. So
no doubt.
Why not?
Okay. When we come back from break, we're going to talk a couple more games with Mo from More Winners with Mo for the Mo Radio Show here on Wake and Bake. It's football season, ladies and gentlemen, and PropSwap is the best way to lock in the action right now. This time last year, Cincinnati was 300-1 odds. Thousands of prop swappers cashed in on Cincy just by buying their tickets on PropSwap early and then flipping for a profit when Burrow and company got hot. Now is your chance to do it again. With thousands of buyers across the country, you'll always get the most amount of money for your bet on PropSwap. So hurry to PropSwap while it's early and grab a ticket or two. The odds are always the highest right now. It really does pay to get in early. Go to PropSwap.com or download the free PropSwap app today. PropSwap is where America buys and sells sports bets. If you listen to Muhammad for 151 Sports Investing, he told you how much better the odds are on PropSwap than what is being offered at your local sports book. And look at me. I had UConn. I went for two. So instead of getting just one ticket with UConn in the future for the Final Four, I got two, sold one on PropSwap, and when they lost, I ended up having a positive ROI on a national championship future ticket where the team lost. Only on PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Welcome back to More Winners with Mo from the Mo Radio Show here on Wake and Bake. So last week you had a big dog, right?
Yeah, I did pretty good on Tennessee on the money line. I was on the sports show with Billy Elvis in Ohio, and he asked me to give him a pick on the game, and I told him that I was not so much picking the winner as I am. I was taking Tennessee on the money line this week, and he's like, "Are you insane?" And I said, "Well, maybe." He's like, "Why wouldn't you take the points?" I said, "Because I want to win big if I'm going to win this game." And I just had a feeling. So I did pretty good on the Tennessee Volunteers last week, knocking off Alabama in the final seconds.
Yeah, and it was really an incredible finish, wasn't it? And it's funny to watch the Bama team be vulnerable every week now.
Yeah, we've seen it. It was almost bend not break for them earlier, but Tennessee had their number, and it's fun to see Tennessee good again because it's been so long since they've been a great team. One of the biggest stadiums in college football, over 114,000 people. And it's fun to see that stadium busy and rocking. The goalpost wound up in the river last week. So what a fun time. Tennessee got fined after the football game on Monday for them not being able to keep people off the field after the win, where they felt endangering the players of the game. So they got a humongous fine after that. But they said they didn't care. They'd pay it, and they're gonna keep going. What a fun young team to watch.
No, a historical win, no doubt about it. Historical win. Speaking of historical wins, let's string a couple more winners together.
Next game we're going to look at is we're going to look at two teams who had terrible losses last week, Baltimore and Cleveland both. Cleveland just got worked by the Patriots, who were on their third string quarterback. And now there's somewhat of a controversy there in New England. And then we're talking about Baltimore, who didn't have the greatest of days last week either. Two teams, Baltimore, for sure, a team that was, thought to be the top of the division with Pittsburgh taking a step back, a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover for the Bengals, and the Browns, who built up a pretty darn good football team waiting on the arrival of Deshaun Watson this year. And, it was okay. Jacoby Brissett was able to navigate it the first couple of weeks, but, after that loss when they fell apart to the Jets at home, it seems like things have gone downhill for the Browns. They've had trouble getting the ball in the end zone. They can't stop anybody. when a third string quarterback, scores 40 plus points on you, there's some issues there. They may have the best defensive player in the league and on that team as well. And it's just, you look at it and you're like, why is this team so bad? I don't think it's just the quarterback. I think there's a lot of issues, going on with this team. So we're going to see these two teams going this week. Lamar Jackson had taken a step back the last couple of weeks. He's playing for a contract, bet on himself. I think that he's going to have some fun this week with going against this Cleveland team. Keeping his running backs healthy is going to be a big thing. Mark Andrews, who is I read up there with Travis Kelce, is the best tight end in the league. I am taking Baltimore this week. I'm putting my money on them. And I'm going to bet the Ravens this week to come out and have a rebound game and put a little smackdown on the Cleveland Browns this week.
Well, they had the game. That game was one of the ones we were watching. They had the game. They had the ball. They had the lead. They weren't covering, but they were going to win that game. There was 5 minutes left, and all you got to do is not do something stupid. And he's been around too long now to make that throw and do something stupid.
Yeah, it definitely was a huge mistake. At that point, you want to see Lamar Jackson using his legs to get first downs and run this clock out and not throwing an interception. But it's the NFL, and like it was said a long time ago, that's why they play the games. That was a term actually coined by Chris Berman way back when. So that is why they play the games.
All right, give us one more.
We're going to look at a team who I think had a disappointing loss last week. In the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, who obviously heartbroken at the end of that game with the Buffalo Bills. What a fantastic game that was for a Sunday afternoon last week. Patrick Mahomes looking to rebound with his team. There are some exciting young players on this team. They're still trying to, cover up for the loss of Tyreek Hill. Juju Smith-Schuster with a touchdown last week. They got Sky Moore, the young rookie who's pretty quick from Western Michigan, involved last week. Again, we talked about San Francisco in desperate need of a bye week. They're a team that every year seems like they're fighting, with tons of injuries to key players. That's happening again to them, especially on their defensive line. We've got running backs injured all over the place again. George Kittle seems fragile every year, and week to week he will play in the game, but it's getting to be tough sledding. We already saw their quarterback go down for the entire year in Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo back at quarterback. They got to figure out a way to get Deebo Samuel the ball. They couldn't do that a lot last week. Brandon Ayuk had a big game, taking advantage of it, but it's got to, they got to get a consistent running game when they're on, a third string running back. And the reason I know the running game was bad last week because my wife had their running back in the game who got them about 1.4 points, fumbled the ball a couple times. She was not happy, so they needed a consistent running game.
That was his total for the game? He didn't even get two?
Yeah, not a great day for him. Not a great day at all. And she was a little feisty after that game.
Can't blame her, man.
Yeah. I've resisted playing fantasy football with her since we've been married. But after 5 years, I figured, you know what? Let's give it a shot. And it's fun because I'd have never seen somebody more into the game and her team, emotional, good and bad, than she is. So it's really fun to watch. Unless she's playing me, then not so much fun.
Yeah, but then it gets ugly, right?
Well, yeah, I've been
there. I got one of those at home. I've been there.
I don't run this house, and if I'm beating her in fantasy football, it's not a fun day. So I like Kansas City in this game, obviously. I don't think that San Francisco is going to be able to hang with them offensively. Neither defense is fantastic, but I think that Kansas City just has too much firepower. It's a game that I'm going to bet a couple of different ways. I'm going to obviously bet KC to win on the money line, but I'm also going to take a couple of things. Travis Kelce's anytime touchdown score, makes a ton of sense. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gotten in the end zone a few times this year to make that worth a play as an anytime touchdown score. And Patrick Mahomes over 249 yards passing, yeah, any day. So I like Kansas City, and I'm gonna figure out a way to put some same game parlays in there too.
Yeah, and those are the kind of guys you can't really take them by themselves. You gotta parlay Kelce with somebody to get the boost.
Yeah, because every week the odds are very slim for him. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire will usually give you about a plus 600 to boost that up, and then Mahomes on his passing over is usually pretty good too. So we'll figure out a way to get that. I might try to sneak in a Deebo Samuel touchdown score for the 49ers as well.
There you go. All right, buddy. We'll catch you again next time. Thanks for all your wise advice.
All right, my friend.
That's
How about
Mo
you?
from the Mo Radio Show here on Wake and Bake. More winners with Mo, and you know what? He does it every single week. So do us a favor. Always be cashing.